Alrighty, welcome everybody to the long-awaited MandoLessons Live. It's been a little while. I was out sick for a while. I was doing some gigs for a while, but I'm back. Excited to be doing these again. It's great to see you all again. We have JN, Denise, Chip, Sheldon, AC, Lewis, Robert, Mr. John the Hat, Asya, Leslie, Michelle, TA. Great to see you all here. Let's see, I'll catch up with the chat a little bit, but that first tune I just played is the tune we're going to jam on at the end of the hour here. So if you're new here, I do these every Saturday, or most Saturdays, but it's been about a month now. When I'm around, I try to get these in, and yeah, it's pretty wide open, kind of Q&A. I love hearing what people are working on and what they've got questions about. And just, yeah, I'll play some tunes by request. I only do traditional stuff that isn't copyrighted, but I'm happy to give it a shot if I can remember how it goes. Denise says, hoping you brought us a new Quebec tune from your Canada trip. Last time I was on here, I was saying I was going to Canada. I actually didn't end up going to Canada. I got sick, and I got like this kind of upper respiratory thing and a fever, and was out. I was gonna be gone for a week up in kind of Gaspé Peninsula of Quebec, and didn't happen because I was laying in bed for a whole week. But I'll get out there another time. Hopefully, won't get sick that time. All right, Chip from Austin, good to have you here. Let's all give Chip a big congratulations because Chip just won the Texas State Mandolin. What's the word I'm looking for? Competition. There we go. It seems like that's a great thing, and it sounds like you're going on to Winfield, so that's very exciting. Got to keep us all updated on how that's going. And yeah, so congrats on that, and good to have you here. What else we got in the chat here? AC says it feels like Saturday again. Yeah, I've missed doing these things. All right, John, Jane, Grimner, and Sean, also welcome. Great to see lots of familiar faces and some new ones too. Catch up with the chat and then move on to other things. Dan says, hi from Dublin, Ireland. Thanks for joining us. How did you find taking part in Irish sessions on your trip to Ireland? How do you remember so many session songs and play so fast? That's a great question. People in Ireland were super friendly. And it was a really great time to actually get over to Ireland. I play a lot of Irish tunes, but I'd never been over there until about a year ago. Actually, about exactly a year ago, even. Or maybe next week, a year ago. It was super fun. Met lots of really great folks who've remained friends, and hope to get back over there again. In terms of remembering remembering all the songs and playing so fast, I think it really just kind of goes with repetition. There's an Irish session here in Maine that I go to pretty much every week, and when I first started going, I didn't know any of the tunes, and I pretty much just sat there and listened and would record a tune here and there if I really liked the sound of it, and ask people names of the tunes, go back. Sometimes I'd learn them. When I went back home, kind of found sheet music online or kind of recordings that I could slow down and learn from. And then eventually I just started kind of hearing tunes and being like, oh, that sounds familiar. I bet I could even, get a couple of those notes, even though I haven't learned that tune yet, and kind of build up from there. And I'd get 10% of a tune, go home, probably forget most of it, come back next week, and maybe they'd play it again, and I'd get another 10%. But now it's been like 5 or so years of going to that session as often as I can, and they kind of build up quickly. And learning at fiddle camps, I teach at Maine Fiddle Camp every summer. In this great camp I'm really looking forward to in the fall called Fiddle Hell in Massachusetts. I'm going to be teaching some mandolin and other instruments there. So if you're nearby in the Northeast, come to either of those. They're both going to be a great time. And yeah, learn tunes from my friends, learn them from recordings. And in terms of playing so fast, I think playing fast is really a cumulative process. Once you get a tune at a certain speed, it's easier to play other tunes at that speed. And then as you slowly ramp up your speed, it's not hard to kind of learn to play all the tunes at a faster speed, because it's sort of, you have the cumulative effect of learning to play faster in general, and you can apply that to tunes as you go. And you need to start by learning a tune slowly, but it doesn't take as long. You know, if you learn one tune and then you learn to play that tune fast, then you learn another tune slow, it's not going to take you the same amount of time to get that tune to play fast. It's much more cumulative than that, so just keep at it and it'll work out great. JN's got a great question. Says, I was curious how important it is to learn scales on the mandolin. It depends. I've got friends who are amazing musicians who don't play scales or don't really think in terms of scales, especially with fiddle tunes. If you're mostly playing fiddle tunes, it can be good to know, what key a tune is in. And then, tunes are pretty much scales to begin with, though. So if you just learn tunes, you'll be learning scales. You just won't be practicing the kind of straight up and down. You won't be doing that. You'll be doing... Or you take a tune like Real Saint Antoine, great French tune in the key of A, and it's really just kind of a combination of scales and arpeggios. So you have arpeggio, and the next phrase is all a big scale, and then back up, and then back to arpeggios, scale, and a little turnaround at the end. So you can combine, I think I started learning tunes. I maybe learned a few scales, but I never really practiced scales. And for me, I think just because I mostly play fiddle tunes, it makes a lot more sense to learn the tunes, learn the music that I'm going to be playing for fun and with other people, and then applying any music theory I might have to getting that idea in my head. So I didn't learn Saint Antoine and think arpeggio, scale, arpeggio, scale. I took the tune, I learned it and played it for years, and then was sort of oh yeah, that's all one big scale. And then I hadn't really thought about arpeggios, but then it's kind of, you can do that, so you can kind of go back through tunes and find little bits of scales. I think scales can come in handy when you start to improvise or you're playing music that's not fiddle tunes. But that said, I think you can, there are people who never learn to play scales and arpeggios or don't know anything about music theory and still do a great job playing whatever kind of music they grew up playing. So I think if it's something that interests you, go for it. That's kind of the way I think about kind of music theory. Is I don't always feel excited by music theory, but if I ever am sort of I'd like to think about music theory, I just sort of take that moment and be okay, I'm going to think about these scales or arpeggios or note names until I get bored, and then don't push it, because it's not one of the most fun musical aspects for me anyway. I really like playing tunes and music and playing with people, and occasionally I can get excited about music theory and ear training and things like that, but for the most part I try to concentrate on what's fun until I really find, just want to make sure it's got to pop up, okay, until I really find something that I see a hole is lacking, wow, I'm really struggling because I don't know this scale or this arpeggio or how to make this chord, and then I'll go fill in those holes. Great question, though. All right, I am not caught up on the chat anymore. Let's see. Mr. John the Hat says, thanks for the tip about muting overtones and undertone notes with the leather strip and grommets. You like the improvement it made. Glad you, yeah, it's worth a try. I just put out a lesson, I think last week, on, I'll zoom in a little bit here, on these things, and how they mute the strings and have the same thing up above the nut. And that, it just kind of gives a slightly different sound. Some people like the ringing open sound. I even like that sound on some instruments. But for the most part, I try to avoid getting those ringing sounds because I find they can kind of not give me the sound I'm looking for. And so there's a video on that where I kind of give some examples of what it sounds like with and without. It's a slight difference, but you know, you can just take, you don't need to buy these special grommets. You can just put a shoelace or a piece of leather or just kind of dampen that somehow and give it a try. Okay. Oh, Leslie says, recovering from a left-hand injury and looking for some right-hand picking exercises. I would recommend, if you haven't already, my website, MandoLessons.com. There's, in the technique and fundamentals section, that's broken down into different techniques. So I've got a bunch of different right-hand techniques that are really, it can be a good, having a hand injury is never fun, but sort of forcing yourself to use your right hand more can be really worthwhile, because it's, you know, you're not going to make any sound on an instrument if you don't use your right hand, and I think right hand often gets really overlooked. So yeah, check out those right hand techniques in the technique and fundamental section of my website. And recover, I hope the recovery goes smoothly, and definitely don't push it, you know. Take it nice and slow, and you don't want to re-injure it by trying to jump the gun there. Dean says, have we thawed out up here yet? Really enjoying the duets you put out. Cool. I'm glad you enjoyed that. I've got my buddy Noah, who I put out those videos with, just got back to town, and we're looking forward to doing some lessons and having him join me on maybe a live stream at some point. That'd be a lot of fun. Yeah, we'll see as the summer goes along. And have we thawed out? Yes, it's no longer getting below freezing. The snow disappeared by like April 27th in the house I grew up in. So spring and summer are coming. Got even some flowers poking up here and there. Oh, cool. Chip says, I heard you might be interested in performing at the Austin Friends of Traditional Music Fall String Band Fest. Yeah. Somebody, I can't remember, maybe I was talking to Scott. I can't remember. I've been talking to some folks about playing a different stuff. It's all, I get inquiries occasionally, and yeah, I'm always excited to kind of meet new folks and go new places. I don't know if it's going to happen this year or not. I don't even know what those dates are. But you never know. It'd be great to get down there. I hope to get down to Texas at some point. Dean says, talking about arpeggios, are they just as important as scales? Yep, haven't practiced arpeggios much. Okay. Yeah, I think they are. Just because it's a different way of moving around a fretboard and kind of creating different sounds. So and they turn up in music like that Saint Antoine, or what's the tune I've been playing a lot lately, Woodchopper's Breakdown. I think it's on the website. No, that's not it. There's the B part. That's a big arpeggio, at least the version that I play. And then scale. Arpeggio. Scale. And so kind of working on some of those arpeggios and scales, and I think really also kind of scale patterns more than straight scales. So rather than going... trying to build some patterns. It doesn't really matter what they are, but you can or things like that. Especially when it comes to improvisation, I think a lot of times I find in myself anyway that if I've been practicing kind of straight scales and straight arpeggios, and it comes time for me to take a solo or a break, what the music that comes out is very kind of straight and scale related. So I'll be playing through a tune. And I'll take a break and do something like this. And become, you know, it's not bad music, but it's just a lot more scalar than I would generally aim for. So if you've been practicing the scale kind of patterns, that can be really helpful. And that's a great thing. FFCP has some great scale patterns. It's jazzmando.com. There's some great PDFs called 4-finger closed position scales, where they have some great lost my train of thought. They've got some great scale patterns. Yeah, I would love to go see the Ellis shop if I ever make it down to Austin. Oh, John says, can you give us your rendition of the Bucks of Oranmore? I wish I could. I always just follow that tune when it happens. I can never start it myself. It's just not on top recall in my head. But I'll play a nice Irish tune in the key of D, which the Bucks of Oranmore is in the key of D. I'll play one of my favorite Irish tunes, whatever this is called. Miss Monaghan's. I believe it's on the website. Little Miss Monaghan's, a great Irish reel in the key of D. That's one that always pops up at the top of my head, so figure I'd give you something along the same lines. All right, well, let's see here. Let me catch up on the chat and make sure I'm not missing anything. So we got over 40 people here. That's always good to see. Thank you all for joining. If you joined since I gave the little spiel, the way this works is it's pretty wide open. Try to keep things nice and relaxed. And if you got questions, throw them out there. I love to hear what people are working on. No question is too simple. No question is too complex. I'm just going to throw my picks around. Maybe I'll give you a little sneak peek at a lesson that I'm going to make. I actually just got a couple mandolins in the mail that I just got. I bought them myself. No sponsorship or anything. But I got the opportunity to buy a couple Lore mandolins. One is the 600 model, and one is the 7. This is the 600. This is the 700. I'm going to do a little sound test. Interestingly built mandolins. This is more of the 600s built very kind of traditionally with tone bar bracing on the top, and the 700s actually built without the top is graduated, so it actually doesn't need tone bars. They've got a very interesting different sound. I'll give you a little taste test, but I just thought that was a cool thing to test out, and I had the opportunity to grab one of each used, so figure I'd sort of show people what they sound like in case anyone's looking at these instruments, because I know they're popular models. Let's see. I'll play something nice and kind of slow. Obviously, can't think of a tune now. So that's the LM600 with the tone bars, and this is the 700 without the tone bars. And yes, Lewis, the tune is "Shove That Pig's Foot a Little Further in the Fire." It's an interesting difference. This one sounds, at least to me, I don't know how much of this is coming through the speakers, or the microphones anyway, but this has got a very kind of wide open sound. Very kind of bright, a little breathy, great. It's got a nice sound for kind of high energy bluegrass. Quick switch back to the 600 with tone bars. A little mellower, in my opinion, on the 600 there, but I'm just gonna make a quick video because I know a lot of people are into the lure. It looks like somebody actually just got a lure, or is waiting for a lure. YouTubist, I like that name. Yeah, it's Lure makes great stuff. Again, no sponsorship or anything. Buying all this with my own money. And yeah, I wish the lure was around, and like some of the Kentucky stuff, or if I had known about some of the Kentucky stuff when I started playing. The what you can get out of a mandolin these days is much more than you could 20 years ago when I started playing. So yeah, I'll get my regular pick back here. Catch up with the chat a little bit. Mr. John the Hats, I hope I'm saying your screen name right, says, tech question, how did you just switch between camera views on a live stream mid-tune? Good question. Nice catching. So I've got this little, you said foot pedal, pretty much. Yeah, I've got this little, it's called a Stream Deck. It works with the program, some of the programs that I use on my computer. And I just have it, it's not meant to be a foot pedal, but I've got it down on the floor and I can hit this button here. And it goes, see if I can get it in both shots. Goes down to that one and then back and back and back. And I just keep it down at my feet so I can move it around as I go. But good catch there. Poppy K, hi from Texas. Hello from Maine. I bet it's nice down in Texas. It's kind of a nice day here, but probably not as delightful as it is down there. Glad to have more folks from Texas in here. I know you're not the only one currently. Jane says, I recently started playing in a band with beginners, but my solos using the pentatonic scale sound choppy. I try pull-offs, hammer-ons, etc. Any tips on how to make my solos sound better? I think there's tons of different approaches for kind of improvising and playing solos, things like that. My approach is always to start with the melody. Pentatonics are great, but it's also kind of a limited amount of that scale. So if you're familiar with some of the pentatonic stuff, like that sort of sound, I think it could really be helpful to maybe practice some straight major scales, because that's going to give you a lot of opportunities to kind of follow the chord progression a little bit more. Because with pentatonics, you don't, if you're in the key of D, you're missing that G note, which is great for the key of G. You're also missing the C sharp, which is great for the chord of G, and the C sharp's great in the chord of A. So you can follow the pattern a little bit more if you're using the full scale. And I would recommend, just playing the melody. I think something a lot of people don't realize, and at least in my estimation, the way this works is everyone's got a slightly different idea of how a melody goes, and that's totally fine. It's part of the tradition. So, whether you're taking a solo on a tune, just play the tune the way that you know it, and that'll sound great. Or if you are playing solos on a song that's being sung, just try to play the melody. So, if you're playing 9-Pound Hammer, start with the melody and it's going to sound great. If you're interested in the technique and fundamentals section of my website, I've got a whole series on double stops, and that can help you kind of add some interesting stuff into your right hand. Also, to the person who is talking about kind of right hand exercises and having left hand injury, that can be another great thing. Work on some of those double stop series lessons. Also, if you look up the song in the songs section of my website, I take every song that I do on the website, I take the song and take it from a simple playing chords and singing to playing a simple melody to building it out with double stops, sometimes working on different keys, things like that. So check out that stuff on my website, and that should give you some ideas. The second one sounded more open to me. Cool, yeah. I'm just kind of catching up on the mandolin comparison. Owen says, why did you want the lures when you love your Ellis? I do love my Ellis. I think part of it is just, I try to find good deals for mandolinists that are in the area. So I was able to get these in, and I'll be able to pass them on to people that are looking for a step up in a mandolin world. Because I teach at camps every summer, and there's always people there with mandolins that they're really fighting with. And I love being able to get mandolins into the hands of people that are going to play them a lot. And I was also really excited about making some videos with those to compare them, because I know that a lot of people go on. That's what I do on YouTube. Not so much for music stuff, but a lot for kind of camera and technology based stuff. I'm always trying to figure out what the right tool for the job is for me, and being able to see stuff on YouTube is helpful. So I just figured I'd give that a try on the old mandolin front. But yeah, I think they're both good sounding mandolins. Sheldon says, can you recommend the best location for a button pickup? I had it under the strings near the neck, but it was picking up all the thumps from hammer-ons and fretting, so I moved it closer to the bridge. So I think what you mean is the one of those that's got the clamp down here, and then it's got the little wire up to a little kind of circle that you can use adhesive to stick to. I've never used one. I see a lot of people put them kind of down below the bridge, closer to the tailpiece. So maybe here. And I think what you can do is, if you put it kind of near this F hole and it sounds too bright, you can move it towards this F hole, and that'll darken the sound up a little bit and make it a little more bassy. Just finding the right spot to put it. Like, then again, I've never done it myself, so I don't know. I think it's a great question for the Mandolin Cafe forums. Check out if you're not a member over there. There's tons of great information, and either a search or a simple question over there, like, hey, I've got one of these. Give them the model name and number, and say, where should I put this thing? You'll get a lot of good recommendations that you can try out. But I think trial and error. See where it sounds best to you. It's part of the process. Whether you're talking about like a new piece of gear or a new technique, it's kind of trial and error and seeing what works. Cool. Mr. John the Hat says getting one of those for video. Yes, Elgato, I think, is the name of this thing, the Stream Deck. No, is it? Yeah. I think it's Elgato, Elgato Stream Deck. All right, Greg and Jolie. Good to have you here. Autumn says, hi everybody, I'm a beginner mandolin player, but I recently received a 1914 Martin Bowlback mandolin. Does anyone have any tips for caring for an antique instrument? Great question. I think the best thing you can do is play it and make sure it's sounding good and it's set up nicely, and that's gonna, it's been around for over 100 years, and that means it was built well to begin with. If there's any cracks or problems that are making it hard to play, or that are making it kind of not function properly or not hold up well, get those addressed. That's a great question for the Mandolin Cafe forums. There's people over there. You can post pictures and they'll tell you exactly what needs to be done, things like that. Leslie has a great question. How do drones work in Irish music? In terms of the mandolin, I use them often. I actually have a lesson on this in the technique and fundamental section. I think I call it octave replacement. So often, I'll give you a little example, like Miss Monaghan's. Zoom in. So that's kind of adding in a drone. The melody normally would go. So it's going right up to that D, A, B, C sharp, D, D, B, A. But I'm replacing one of those Ds with a low open D string drone. So and that leaves that D string to ring open the whole time. And that D is still going. And just kind of adds a nice little second layer. In general, Irish music is not the most kind of double stop heavy music you can find. Whoops. Double hit the old foot switch. Irish music is very melodic centered music, so you're not going to find that sort of like if you put in too many like drones and double stops, it's going to sound like it's going to start sounding like an old time tune. But in general, the pipes have often will have a drone note going, and a lot of guitar styles in Irish music and bouzouki styles and accompaniment styles are very drone based. So it's a great combination. I think if you're playing melodies, try to use them sparingly, just to try to not kind of get in the way of the melody as much as possible. But then again, that's just kind of an artistic choice, and kind of follow the music, do what sounds best to you. Gallopede. I got it this time. I played this for a contra dance yesterday. There have it, a little Gallopede. I love that tune. I played that tune for the dance Gallopede. It's what's called a chestnut, at least in New England. When there's a specific tune that goes with a specific contra dance, it's called a chestnut. Did that one with my bandmate Julia yesterday for a Montessori school contra dance. Yesterday morning, it was super fun. There were like 40 kids, all under the age of like 10, just dancing it up, and it was great. Denise says, have you ever played I don't know if it's Pono or Pano, octave mandolin? I haven't. They just got some in Elderly. I was thinking of taking a little trip to see them, made in Hawaii at a uke factory. Yeah, I've heard good things about those. I've never played one myself. I bet it's cool. It'd be fun to like tune one like a little bazooka. I think they're kind of like a little short scale, which is cool. Yeah, if you do it, let me know. I'm always interested. It's great to see the world of like mandolas and octave mandolins. You know, Eastman just started making octave mandolins. There's the Pono octave mandolins. I love to see the world of mandolin family instruments get bigger because it's a kind of a small niche thing, but I think they're getting more popular, which makes me happy. Jay says, just dropping in to share that I've been working on Shady Grove. Great. Thanks for stopping by. Great to have you here. And keep up the good work on Shady Grove. It's a good one. Cool. Glad people enjoyed Gallopede. Okay, Chuck says, wondering about the gauge of strings to use, such as on a 20-plus-year-old Kentucky KM620, concerned about how heavy a gauge can be used. On that particular, I'm not a professional luthier or professional kind of builder or instrument knowledge guy. I think on that instrument you'd be fine with medium gauge strings, D'Addario J70, now EJ74s. Those are, again, no sponsorship from D'Addario at this point. They're just kind of like the classic phosphor bronze medium gauge strings. I use those strings on my old Gibson from the 20s. It's actually not up there, but sometimes it's hanging up there. It's been replaced by a fiddle. But it's just over there. You can on this mandolin I use EJ75s, which is just a slight. It's kind of, they call it a medium heavy. I think that would also be fine on a Kentucky. I think you want to go towards light strings on, like that old Martin Bolback. You definitely want to have that somebody was talking about earlier. That's going to be an instrument that you really want light strings on, not only for like the structural integrity of the instrument, but also they were just built so lightly that you put on heavy strings and it's just gonna kind of it's going to be too much for the instrument sound-wise as well as kind of structure-wise. You'll have more chance of like caving in the top on a flat-topped, lightly built instrument versus, like a Kentucky from the, what did you say, the 80s, 20-plus years? Yeah, those are great instruments, and those Kentuckys, and you can put mediums or medium heavies on there, no problem, in my opinion. Again, I'm not a doctor. I just play one on YouTube. Let's see. Jan says, can't wait for the lesson on that one. Yeah, I'm looking forward to making that. Great tune is going to be coming soon. Got a little time to have the studio, the living room studio to myself, so got to make a bunch of lessons. After all the mix-up, so yeah, Jan and I had to mix up because you were, what were you calling it? Yarmouth Reel, which I didn't know that name of it. And JN was saying like, oh, learn Yarmouth Reel. Have you heard Yarmouth Reel? Would love to hear that one. And I was like, oh yeah, never heard of it. And then I finally went and looked it up, and it's called Gallopede, or I know it is Gallopede. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that Gallopede is the real name. It seems like Yarmouth Reel is a totally acceptable name. I had never heard that one. But yeah, after all that time, it's a tune I've been playing for like 15 years. All right. Tidies says, I'm here. I've been playing. Can't talk. I've been teaching myself Wayfaring Stranger Monroe style. Cool. So I love the song and the way Bill Monroe plays and sings it. That's a great song. That's got one of the most beautiful melodies, that song. I have a version on my website, not really the Bill Monroe version, but it's a great song. I just love that going from minor to major. It's just like a big blast of sunshine every time it happens. Hey Keith, good to have you here. Cool. Keith says recently picked up an Easton. I'm having trouble talking. I'm getting a little tongue tied. Recently picked up an Eastman octave mandolin. Love it. Cool. Yeah, I've got one of those. Pull it out real quick. I can't pull it out. I don't know exactly where it is right now. I think it might have gone in the other room. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's great to have Eastman making. I was just saying, it's great to have more octave mandolin choices in the out in the world these days. All right, let's see. Lewis says, took a break from bluegrass, learned "Free Fallin'" by Tom Petty. That's a classic one. I'm not going to play it because YouTube would shut me down quick on that one. Back in the USSR, another great song. Great on the mandolin too. There's a lot of great Beatles stuff to do on the mandolin. Jan says, are there going to be any more music videos of you and Noah jamming from your new album? Yeah, we want to make some, not necessarily of kind of music videos. Those are all the music videos of kind of the tracks that were on the album, but Noah's going to be making an appearance on MandoLessons and teaching some of his tunes, and we'll be talking about the tunes and doing some lessons and hopefully have him on a live stream at some point, and we'll play some of those for sure because that's always fun playing with him, and he's back in the area for the summer, and it's gotta strike while the iron's hot. That's not the right saying, but yeah, no, I think that is. That's gotta be like a blacksmithing term. Jonathan says, I got a nice Washburn MWSK 118 or whatever for $350. Sweet deal. Cool, yeah. Washburns are great. There's so many. Really, like, I don't even remember what my first mandolin was. It was just kind of like the $100 mandolin in my local store, and it was not a good mandolin. And now to see it, like, even if I had paid $500 plus, there just wasn't that much to choose from that I knew about. And really, in the last 20 years, there's been so many great. You really can't go wrong with so many of these brands these days. And then you find something used and you get an even better deal, and it's a good time to be a mandolin player. So congrats, Jonathan. Ooh, Mr. John the Hat says, I've been trying to find a lesson or tab for O'Neill's March. I'm not going to try to say the Irish. I don't know that one off the top of my head. I might recognize the tune, but look around it. Check out, maybe it could be another situation of kind of like multiple names for the tune. It's probably on the session somewhere. It might be under a different name, or if you can find it on the session, I think in dropping my picks again. I think in like the resources section of my website, there's some page on my website where I talk about converting ABC into tablature, and you can download all the files on the session as ABC if you're not a standard notation reader. That said, never hurts to try to learn a little bit of standard notation, because that's the most prevalent source of written music is going to be standard notation with the dots. So worth a try if you're up to a little bit of a challenge. I was a tab reader for a long time, and I still am, but at some point I just had to force myself to read music, and it's one of the most helpful things I've done for myself. But yeah, I think if you can find the tune on the session, and then you could probably also just Google like ABC to mandolin tab, and there's some converters where you can just plug in the ABC and it'll spit out mandolin tab online. Not always the cleanest looking tab, but it works in a pinch, especially if you already kind of know how the tune goes in your head. All right, let's see. Yep, traditionalmusic.co.uk also has a bunch of great music. Could be in there. Do I know Grey Owl? That's another one that I follow. I know Bruce Molsky does a great version of that tune. And I always get it mixed up with Grey Eagle, of which there are a couple. Jane says, I noticed you have an armrest on your mandolins. Can you talk about them? Yeah. So I have this armrest. I actually got into the habit of using an armrest because one of the mandolins that I owned had really kind of sharp sides, and it would just kind of like dig up my forearm when I was playing. So I kind of got into having something a little softer there. And I like the way that this armrest, so again, no sponsorships or anything, but this armrest is called a McClung, MCCLUNG, made by Doug Edwards of Hill County String Works. I'm pretty sure he's still making them. And it's got a little bit of an angle to it, so it kind of puts my arm in a nice position. I feel like when I'm playing, it kind of tips my arm up just a little bit, very slight. Puts it in a nice, comfortable position. Armrests are definitely, they're not necessities by any means. Same thing with like the rubber grommets, or people put tone guards on the back of their instrument. I've gone back and forth with tone guards. I used one for years, and then just kind of was enjoying the sound without it. It'll change little things, but not necessarily for the better or the worse. It's just kind of something you can try out to see if you like it better. Some people like them, some people don't. I'd say, I think the McClungs are $30 or $40. You can also get kind of more basic models for around $20, I think. You can give it a try, see if it's something that you like. And if you don't like it, you can just sell it on the Mandolin Cafe classifieds. Maybe lose a couple bucks, but it's just like buying a set of strings. Strings wear out, and you got to put new ones on. So if you lose $10, it's might be worth the experiment. Nail That Catfish to a Tree. That's a great tune. That is unfortunately a copyrighted tune written by Steve Rosen, so I'm not going to play that one because I don't have permission to do that one. But that's a great tune. I should look into maybe trying to make a lesson on that one and seeing if I can get that one in there, because that's a great classic tune that a lot of people play. Joey says, a little off topic, do you know a good place to get claw hammer tabs for the quality of your mandolin tabs? I happen to indeed know where to get great claw hammer tablature. So Josh Turknett, if you look up Brainjo, BRAINJO, I believe it's also clawhammerbanjo.net. Let me just make sure. Yeah, so clawhammerbanjo.net, all one big word. You can go tabs, like one of the things at the top. And then there's top 10 tunes. There's also tune and tab of the week. And I think you need to like sign up for his you might need to sign up for his mailing list. He also has some kind of paid programming, which I've done, and it's great. He has a great series with Adam Hurt that I did, and using clawhammerbanjo.net and Josh's materials, I really kind of taught myself to play clawhammer. Really appreciate his site. He does great stuff. Totally worth supporting him because he does great work. And I know that some of his stuff is free and some of it's kind of a paid program, but it's all totally worth it. So go check that out if you're a clawhammer player. Oh, she teaches John's tune on the mandolin. So I just put out a clawhammer banjo album, solo clawhammer banjo is what it's called. It's in the shop or the store page on my MandoLessons website. And that's a tune that I wrote. I've never tried to play it on the mandolin. I think of it very as a banjo. You could probably do it somehow. It's not the right key, but works in a pinch. Idea of it anyway. You can hear the whole thing on my album, except on a banjo, not on a mandolin. But yeah, it'd be fun to make a little mandolin arrangement of that. I'll think about that. that a Martin guitar behind me? It is. It's a D21 from the 50s. Leslie, thank you so much for the super chat donation. I really appreciate it. For those of you who are unfamiliar, super chat is a way that you can make small donations through YouTube. Helps me put out. Oh, they're coming in fast now. Helps me do these live sessions every week. You can also do some donations through my website. Links in the description. That said, it's always free, totally voluntary. My lessons will always be free. All right, wow, 3 super chat donations right in a row. Thank you all so much. From Leslie, from Andrew, and from Robert. Jenna, hi. Great to see you here. Thanks for coming. Apologies if I didn't say your name right, but glad you could make it. Cool. Nelson says the John's Tune is my favorite track from the album. A lesson would be awesome. Yeah, I'll try to work something up. Remind me if it doesn't happen, because it's gonna fly out of my head real quick. Andrew says, bummer I missed it. Happy you're back. Learned Lock Tender's Reel from Connell and Sky's June Apple album. That's a pretty one. I'll have to check that one out. I don't know that one. But thanks so much for the super chat. And for those of you who maybe got here late or have missed them in the past, these are always viewable after the fact. They get archived. You can watch them later, slow them down, all that sort of thing. And Denise, who's been in the chat a little bit here. Oh, there's Denise now talking about John's Tune. Thank you so much, Denise, saying John's Tune is beautiful. Puts together really great, what's the word I'm looking for? Episode guides where it's linked to all the tunes and you can search by tune. It's really helpful. And if you go to my website, MandoLessons.com, there's a little green button on the side that says Live Q&A. You scroll down on that page and you can get to those PDFs, which are super helpful. So thank you again to all the super chat donations. Really appreciate it. John, what's that John's Tune on the banjo? I'll see what this banjo's in. I don't know what tune this is. And then we got to play a little bit of Off to California. Oh, good. It's got frets. I never know what banjo's in what case. Alright, yeah. That's workable. Alright, so this is a tune by request called John's Tune on my Clawhammer Banjo album, which is... it's not super in tune. And I'll have to do for now. If you like the sound of this, you can find it in the shop section of MandoLessons.com. Let's see. Woo! Banjo brain. There it is. There it is, a little bit of John's tune on the clawhammer banjo. For the banjo players, this is probably, sounds like C, double C, but it could be double D. Yeah, it's in C. I wrote it in C, but same tuning, just up a whole step. So it works in either. I don't really care what key it's in. Wherever. Sometimes I go halfway between and play on like C sharp, just because it sounds fun up there. All right. Cool. Thank you so much for the kind words on that tune. Cool. Tidies has been working on clawhammer. Great project. There's a lot. It's a good. It works nicely with Mandolin. And they both kind of complement each other. Looking out my Scottish. Cool. Awesome. Mr. John the Hat's got some cool plans for that tune. I'd love to hear what you come up with. AC says, new definition of a gentleman, someone with a loud banjo who plays it quietly. What banjo is that? This is Rickard. So Bill Rickard's the guy up in Canada, builds banjos. It's his kind of basic model, the Maple Ridge. It's got a Dobson tone ring, so it's got this kind of donut tone ring in the back. I don't know how well that's going to come through on the video, but got a little sock back there just to make it a little softer sounding. It's got a skin head on it, made by John Balch, who makes awesome goat skin heads for banjos, and actually is the namesake of that tune because I got that skin banjo head, put it on, and that tune immediately popped out of my fingers. So I was like, well, gotta name this tune after this guy because he inspired that tune somehow. So there's John's tune for John Balch. Aaron says, do you do any touring as a solo-duo player? Not really. I've done some in the past, kind of down along the eastern seaboard, playing contra dances, where I mostly play tenor guitar, 4-string guitar, tuned to G, D, A, D, similar to a mandolin, but mostly as a kind of a rhythm roll. But I think I've got some plans to get out and about, and I'll definitely tell people about them if as they come to fruition. Maybe these next couple of years I'll be getting out a little more than in the past, but for the most part I just mostly stick around Maine and New England. But I'll always keep you posted about my travels if I gotta get out of if I end up getting out of the state with a mandolin in my hands. Jan says, gotta run, thanks so much, see you Monday. Sounds great. Yep. So Jan is a Patreon subscriber where I do kind of patron-only versions of this live stream. It's the same sort of thing, except I can get a little more in-depth with the lessons, or with the questions, because they're there's less people and it's a little more mellowed out. So if that's something you're interested in, you can check out patreon.com/MandoLessons. Link in the description. Totally optional, but that's a way to, if you like these things, that's a way to get another one of these a month with all the Patreon folks. All right, so I am already over time, but we still got some work to do. We got to play whatever this tune is. Off to California, a great Irish hornpipe in the key of G. So I hope your mandolins are out and tuned up, because we're going to go here. I'll play it. It sounds like this. And I'm just going to pull up the chords so I do it like it's written. This lesson is on my website. If you don't know the tune, see if you can pick up a little of it as we go. And if you do know it and you've played it a million times, see if you can do a little bit of improvisation or double stops or things like that. See if you can challenge yourself a little bit. Wow, it's got a lot of chords. I don't play this many chords anymore. Okay, so off to California. Let me see. Gotta make sure everything's looking good here. All right, so key of G. We'll pass it back and forth. So I'll play the melody. You can play the chords. Pass back and forth a couple times. Call it good. So I'll start with the melody, and you play the chords. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. B part. B2. You can play it and I'll play the chords. B part. B part again. You play chords, I'll play melody. You play it. I got the chords. B part. Going out. Alrighty, that was a lot of fun. As always, again, there's a lesson for that on my website, so you can go learn it if you don't know it already. It's a good one on a classic Irish tune. It's good to get some hornpipes under your fingers. Alright. Alright, Russell's joined in on that one. Glad to hear it. Cool. Russell says, played violin and viola for some years now and recently picked up the mandolin. It's your new favorite. It's a great instrument. So are violin and viola. You should get a mandola. It's the same idea as a viola, but just with a pick and 8 strings. Cool. Well, thank you all so much. I think it's about time I head off and to do my other things I got to do on the Saturday. But thank you all for spending my early afternoon. Could be your morning or evening. I know there's people here from all over the world. Thank you all so much for joining in. Ooh, oh yeah, that's right. We gotta pick one for next time. I forgot about that. It's been so long. Lewis says turkey in the straw next time. That sounds great. Let's go with that. So next time, practice up. I think next. Am I gonna be here next weekend? I think so. Yes, I should be here next weekend. Um, Turkey in the Straw is the tune next week. So if you don't know it, check out the website. Uh, Pick up what you can. If you already know it, try to add some double stops, and we'll dig into it next week. Thank you all again so much for joining, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks so much for the super chats and donations. Couldn't do it without you.